During the Cold War, Americans lived in constant fear of nuclear annihilation.
If you duck and cover like Bert, you will be much safer.
That was sort of an intense time during the Cold War.
Half a century ago, Mike McCracken joined a legion of scientists working to defend the nation. But he wasn't focused on making bombs. He was part of the mission to understand the global climate system. How would atomic warfare impact the climate?
Thousands of tons of Earth particles are drawn upward into the ascending mushroom cloud, where radioactive...
Could mushroom clouds lead to nuclear winter? Questions like these plagued scientists at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, including McCracken.
It's national security. I mean, you're working to protect the country in terms of the Cold War that was going on. One of the scientists from Livermore was Chuck Leith, and he ended up developing the first global atmospheric model.
Leith built his model to test the fastest computer in the world, the UNIVAC LARC, and he worked with Hollywood animators to create this representation of the output. The model was a scientific breakthrough, window into the inner workings of the atmosphere.
I basically took Leith's three-dimensional model of the atmosphere, made it two-dimensional. What I did was sort of simplify atmospheric motions and add a lot of stuff that kept track of where the heat and the energy went. Created a climate model. Climate looks long-term about changes in energy.
Today, the Pentagon warns that climate change is ramping up security threats. But McCracken says that even back then, officials were starting to understand what was at stake.
As the Atomic Energy Commissions eventually became the Department of Energy, it took on the issue of carbon dioxide emissions and what those would do to the climate. You can see one of my talks given in 1982. We were talking about the fundamentals then.
Some of you may have remembered reading when you were young, or I remember when I was young, reading in Popular Science and Popular Mechanics how CO2 was warming the world.
You go, holy Toledo. This is a very risky thing we're doing.
Through his years of research, McCracken came to see a new threat, not from beyond our borders, but from within.
We think it's hard to change the climate. But looking at the past climate, it shows that relatively small influences have had a large effect.